Ever feel like you're drowning in words? Like there's just
Oh,
so many. We're diving into that today, vocabulary building. And get this, prepping for this, going through your notes, this guide, turns out cramming definitions. Totally not how our brains work.
that's true. We crave context, seeing the word in action, the nuances, even feeling it, connecting to it emotionally.
Like that saying, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make it get a new word just from the dictionary, right?
Exactly. This guide, it's all about active learning, not passively reading definitions, but really engaging.
Okay, active learning, unpack that for me. What's that look like day to day?
Think how we learned our first language, not flashcards, right?
Yeah.
Constant exposure, messing around with words, interacting, that's the process. Even as adults, this guide argues.
So like how we pick up slang from friends, that kind of thing.
Precisely. Making it personal, not just memorizing mellifluous, but picturing your favorite singer, their voice is mellifluous, using it.
Mellifluous, haven't heard that one in a while. Okay, I see the idea. But honestly, who has time for all this active stuff? Life gets in the way.
And that's where this guide's great, fitting it into your life, not adding more work.
Examples, please. I'm all about that efficiency.
You love podcasts, right? Already hours of words each week. What if you jotted down 1 or 2 new W ones per episode?
Like that time I finally looked up eponymous after 5 true crime podcasts used it. Turns out, way more common than I thought.
Exactly. You already love it. Just add that awareness. Bam. Passive becomes growth.
Okay, I see the light here. Not more to do, but finding that potential in what we already do.
Precisely. And then there's spaced repetition, playing to how our brains forget things naturally.
That's my downfall. Remembering. It's the worst. Tell me more about this spaced thing.
Tricking your brain into thinking it matters. Not cramming, but spacing out reviews. New word today, review tomorrow, few days later, a week later.
Like reminding it, hey, remember this. Still relevant.
Exactly. And bonus, there's apps for that. They schedule it all, makes it way easier.
Technology to the rescue, as always.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
Makes me think I've been doing this all wrong, vocabulary-wise. I'm a cram and forget type.
You and me both. But this guide, it's like shift the perspective. Not about being perfect, but making progress. And honestly, owning a word, using it confidently, isn't that cooler than a multiple choice test?
You know what? Totally. There's this word, obstreperous. Learned it ages ago, never used it.
Yeah.
But my neighbor's dog, totally obstreperous.
That's the spirit. And here's what's fascinating. This guide talks about how our brains connect things. Not just knowing the definition, but emotions, senses, even linking words together. That's how we really remember.
So not just memorizing, but making it mean something. More on that, please.
Imagine learning effervescent. You could do the dictionary definition, or you picture opening champagne. The sound, the bubbles, the excitement, you're painting a picture, right?
It's the sound, yeah, the anticipation. That sticks with you way more than just a boring definition.
Right. The more senses involved, the stronger the connection. So say the word out loud, write a story with it, even draw it.
Mind blown. It's like taking vocabulary from black and white to full-on IMAX.
Exactly. Those multi-sensory experiences, that's what helps us hold on to the learning.
Like when I was trying to learn all those fancy coffee names, hopeless until I started tasting them.
Yeah.
Aromas, the little flavor differences. Then it clicked.
There you go. Active learning in action. And you can do that with any word, no matter how weird it seems.
Okay, so active learning, spaced repetition, the senses. What else is hidden in this guide's treasure trove? One thing that really jumped out at me was this idea of high-frequency vocabulary. Can you break that down for us? What is it, and why should we care?
Imagine building a house, but you've only got like 20 kinds of bricks. You could build something, but not very interesting or useful.
Okay, you need a wider variety to get really creative and make something impressive.
Exactly. High-frequency vocabulary is the words used most often, everywhere. They're the foundation of how we talk, the building blocks.
So master the basics before you get fancy with the language.
Precisely. And the guide has tips for finding them, like pay attention at work, what words come up all the time in your field.
So an accountant doesn't need effervescent versus scintillating, but financial jargon. That's their bread and butter.
Exactly. Student, textbooks, lectures, those are your gold mines. They even say use online tools to analyze text, see what's used most.
Oh, like those word cloud things. You put in some writing, and it makes the most used words bigger.
Exactly. Super helpful for getting a feel for what matters in a certain type of writing.
So we've got our high-frequency words, spaced repetition, engaging our senses. How else do we make these words stick?
Association. Back to effervescent. Remember it better with those vivid connections, multiple senses involved.
So building our own little word webs in our minds. New words linked to stuff we already know.
Exactly. Learning ubiquitous. Don't just memorize the definition being everywhere at once.
Right.
Think about things that are ubiquitous in your life.
Smartphones. They're everywhere these days. Or those annoying jingles that get stuck in your head. I've got one stuck in my head. Even annoying things could be ubiquitous.
Precisely. Or the internet, social media. You get the idea. By making it personal, you're giving your brain that hook to remember.
Like anchoring it in something familiar, something that already has a place in our minds.
Exactly. And the more senses you can engage in that process, the stronger those anchors become.
So it's not just seeing the word on a page, it's feeling it, experiencing it in a way that makes sense for you. This is really making me rethink my whole approach to vocabulary. I've always been such a linear learner. But this idea of creating these webs of meaning is fascinating.
And that's what's so exciting about this, right? It's not just about adding more words to your mental dictionary. It's about transforming your relationship with language itself.
So well said. It's about approaching language with a sense of curiosity and playfulness, rather than seeing it as this daunting mountain to climb. And speaking of playfulness, this guide has a whole section on, wait for it, word games.
Because learning should be fun, right?
Exactly. We'll be right back after this short break. You know, I've always loved word games, crosswords, Scrabble, even those silly ones in magazines, you know.
There's just something about figuring them out, making the connections, seeing those words fall into place.
Right, and get this guide's saying it's not just fun and games, it's actually good for vocabulary.
Absolutely. That playfulness, it activates different parts of our brains, makes learning more fun, A&D, more effective.
Like sneaking in a brain workout without even realizing it. I'm into that.
Exactly. And don't underestimate humor either. The guide talks about how laughter actually helps us learn and remember.
Okay, explain that one. How does laughing make us better with words?
When we laugh, our brains release endorphins, right? Improves mood, less stress, and get this better brain function overall.
So it's like rewarding our brain for getting a funny wordplay or a good pun.
Precisely. That reward feeling makes us more likely to remember. Positive reinforcement for being punny.
Making me want to brush up on my puns, honestly. But are there specific types of word games that are best for this?
This guide mentions a bunch, from the classics like Scrabble and Boggle to online puzzles, even just word association with a friend.
Word association. Haven't played that in a long time.
It's a classic for a reason. Really gets those creative juices flowing, makes you connect words in new ways.
And it's social. Learning together. Which reminds me, this guy talks about collaborating, learning from others.
Absolutely. Language doesn't have to be a solo mission. It's actually more fun and often more effective when we do it together.
Like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
Love that. And there's so many ways to do it with vocabulary.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, you could join a book club or a language exchange group.
Book club. Imagine that. Cozying up with a good book, a cup of tea, and a bunch of word nerds, dissecting the author's vocabulary and debating grammar rules.
Sounds fun. But even if you're not ready for a full-on book club, there's tons of online communities for language lovers.
Oh, right. So instead of just looking up words by yourself, you see how other people use them, different situations.
Exactly. Exposing yourself to even more vocabulary, different ways people talk, regional stuff, even slang.
It's like a crash course in how diverse English really is. But it's not just casual, right? This guide mentions getting feedback on our language. That's always a bit nerve-wracking.
I get it, but honestly, it's so valuable for improvement.
Okay, so how do we ask for feedback without feeling like we're back in school getting graded?
Find someone you trust, who knows their stuff, but is also supportive, and be specific.
So not just, how's my vocabulary, but more like, I'm trying to use more descriptive language. Can you check if my word choices are weird in this article?
Exactly. The more specific, the more useful the feedback. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about constantly getting better.
Progress, not perfection. I like that. But how do we even know if we're making progress? It's hard to measure learning new words.
Good point. Easy to get lost in the day-to-day and lose sight of the bigger picture.
So how do we track it without getting discouraged?
Realistic goals, that's key, the guide says. Track your progress over time. Don't go overboard.
Instead of, I'm learning 100 words this week, which, let's be honest, is setting yourself up for failure. Maybe learn one new word per day and actually use it.
Now you're getting it. Celebrate those little wins. Those are signs you're on the right track.
So it's celebrating the journey, not just waiting for this big fluency finish line, because there isn't one really.
Precisely. And as your vocabulary grows, those little wins add up. You feel good, keep going. It snowballs.
I like that. It's not a race. It's more like exploring a huge, interesting world. Speaking of which, some words feel like obstacles in that world.
We've all been there, right? Staring at a page thinking, how am I supposed to understand this word?
So for those moments, what wisdom does this guide offer?
It says, lean into that curiosity. Don't see it as a roadblock, but as a chance to dig deeper. What's hidden in this word?
So instead of frustration, it's intrigue.
Exactly. Instead of, I can't try, I wonder where this word comes from, how else it's used, if there's a cool story behind it.
Like vocabulary detective work.
Love that. And the guide has some fun ways to make it even more engaging.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Well, one thing they suggest is exploring etymology. Basically, looking back in time, where did this word come from? What's its story?
I always love that, etymology. How a word's meaning can completely change over time. So interesting.
Like a secret history hiding in plain sight. And there's tons of great websites for that now. It makes it so easy.
Okay, so we've got our detective hats on, ready to investigate. What other strategies does this guide have?
They talk about creating word histories.
Word histories, that's a new one.
It's simple, but powerful. Next time a new word grabs you, don't just write the definition. Think about where you saw it, what it made you think of, how you could use it.
So it's like giving it your own personal context, making it yours.
Precisely. You're not just memorizing, you're building this whole tapestry of language based on your experiences.
I love that image. A tapestry. So much more interesting than just a list of words. Okay, we're getting close to another break. Before we do, I'm curious, what's standing out to you so far? Anything you're going to try from all this? We'll be back in a bit to uncover even more vocabulary building gems. Back again, ready for more vocabulary adventures.
And there's plenty more where that came from. This guide, it really wants us to see that vocabulary isn't just words, it's understanding the world better.
Okay, hold on. I always thought it was about words, communication, right. But you're saying it's deeper. It's about understanding how W.
Think of it like this. Every single word has got a past, whole story behind it. And when we get those stories, the origins, the meaning becomes so much richer.
So each word is like a doorway to a whole other world.
That's it. Like serendipity. Beautiful word, right. Happy accidents, finding something good you weren't even looking for. But it comes from an old Persian fairy tale. Did you know that?
Get out. No way.
It's true. These three princes from the Isle of Serendip, which is Sri Lanka now, they go on this quest. And constantly, they just bump into amazing discoveries, not on purpose, but because they were paying attention, open to anything.
Wow, so serendipity isn't just luck, it's that attitude, being ready for the unexpected good stuff life throws at you.
Exactly. And knowing that deeper meaning, the history, suddenly you can live serendipitously, right? See the possibilities everywhere.
Okay, my mind is blown. Tell me more. How does knowing where words come from change how we see things?
Well, it connects stuff that seems totally different. Words that sound nothing alike, you trace them back and bam, they're related. Different cultures, time periods, languages, it all links up.
It's like that 6 Degrees game, but with words instead of people.
Exactly. And those weird connections, they spark new ideas, make you question what you thought you knew, even about yourself.
I kind of want to go on a dictionary deep dive now, look up every word I know. But realistically, life gets busy. How do we keep up with vocabulary without it being another chore?
Make it a habit, something you enjoy, part of your day, the guide says.
Okay, I'm listening. Less work is good.
They suggest a word of the day thing.
I like where this is going.
Simple, right? Subscribe to a word a day email.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
Or pick one randomly from a book. Then all day, see if you can use it. Talking, writing, even just thinking it to yourself.
It's like a fun little challenge, keeps your brain on its toes.
That's it. And do it with someone. Challenge a friend who can use the word the most, the funniest. Make it a competition.
Ooh, I like it. Bonus points for the most grammatically questionable usage.
And don't forget, the guide says, celebrate the wins.
Yeah, we all need that pat on the back, especially with something like language. It's ongoing, right?
It's so easy to just keep looking to the next T thing, forgetting what we've already done.
Ah.
So acknowledge those wins no matter how small.
So if I use obstreperous correctly in a sentence, that's party time.
Confetti time, absolutely. Every time you stretch your language skills, try something new, you're growing, and that's worth celebrating.
I love that. It's not about being perfect, it's the journey, one word at a time.
Perfectly said. And on that journey, remember, you're not alone. There's a whole world of us word nerds out here, happy to share what we know, help each other out.
So true. Online, in person, so many ways to connect with other people who love language, swap tips, geek out over new words.
And honestly, that feeling of community, knowing you're not the only one struggling with grammar or whatever, it keeps you going.
Absolutely. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm seriously amazed by how powerful language is. It connects us, teaches us, changes how we see the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
To all our listeners out there, keep that love of language alive. Enjoy the learning, find what works for you, and keep exploring that incredible world of words. Until next time.